is it ever acceptable to let yourself go after you get married? Well, Bath University followed 9,000 men over 14 years, and they found that married men are over 2.5 pounds more heavy than their bachelor counterparts. So what do you all think? Is it ever acceptable to let yourself go after marriage? Let's have a look at some famous faces just to see if this is true in real life. We're first going to have a look at the wonderful Prince of Wales, Prince William. Oh, look at him back then, such a hunk. And then look at what happened after he got married to Kate Middleton, the now Princess of Wales. Looking very different and not quite as handsome. Let's have a look at the rapper JayZ back in the day before he got married to Beyonce. OK, he's never been as pretty as Beyonce, but he was certainly prettier back then than he is now. Oh, look at those dreads. I am not sure about that. So that's me done. I don't think it is acceptable to let yourself go after marriage.
Those two, Prince William and JayZ, don't look like they've put on that much weight. And actually, 2.5 pounds, was that the figure?
Yes.
That's nothing. That's water weight. You can wake up and lose that.
It's 1.1 kilograms.
That's nothing.
I think poor old Prince William, I mean, he's just aged. Yes. That's allowed. He's lost his hair.
He's lost his hair. He's still...
Sorry, Kate Middleton, the Princess of Wales, is also aged. She doesn't look as bad as that.
Yes, because she doesn't have male pattern baldness. That's why.
He's just lost his hairline. But look, one thing I do agree with you on is, and I might get lambasted for this, however, I do think that if your partner in marriage gets totally out of control, that is genuine grounds for divorce. Because it's not just on a superficial level of, you know, do I find you attractive? It's going to affect your sex life. It doesn't set a good example to your children. If you've got, you know, an obese parent, that's not a good example to your kids. I don't care what anyone says. And also, it's kind of like, you know, do you want to put in the effort anymore to be with me? I don't agree with people who say it's fine to let yourself go just because you're comfortable. I think it's a nonsense.
Benjamin Butterworth, what do you think? Do you think it's OK to let yourself go after marriage?
Well, clearly.
It's too late for him.
Or before marriage.
Yeah. I've let myself go and that's why I can't get married. Do you know, I think it is common that this happens because people, often the reason that they go to the gym, that they put all the effort in, is because they're trying to attract a partner, and that's human nature, that's animal nature, right? But I think it shows a certain level of disrespect to the partner, because the fact is there is a gender, a sex divide. We'll come to that debate later. But there is a divide here, right? Because you rarely, as Darren referenced, find that the woman looks you know, particularly unkept at 50 compared to the man. You know, you get these fat, balding, lazy, middle-aged men and these beautiful women.
On all sides. But I completely disagree. I think you get thinner when you're happier. Isn't that...
Well, let's just hold that thought very quickly, because we do actually have an example of someone who is in a relationship who actually went from being perhaps less attractive to being a lot more attractive afterwards, maybe because of that relationship. Let's have a look at GBNews' very own Patrick Christie's transformation over the last couple of years. That's what he looks like now, since he's met the gorgeous Emily Carver, and we might remember what he looked like before, but he looked very different. So it is possible, Cressida, to get into a relationship and have the opposite thing happen to you.
Well, that's it, because instead of being friends with your fridge and with carbs, you've got somebody to talk to, somebody to hang out with, and I think people feel better about themselves.
Well, he swapped one Carver for another, and it helped a great deal. Do you know what? I think you made a really good point, though, Krista, about how there is a link between happiness and eating. I know that when I'm unhappy, even if I've not quite clocked it, right, I'm going to the fridge a lot more. I'm not putting in the effort to cook a meal that's going to be more nutritious, that's going to be healthier. I'm not going out on walks, which is so good for your mental health. And that's when the pounds come
Also,
on.
when you're tired, I've noticed in recent weeks, if I'm particularly tired or I've had a bad night with the kids, the next day I will eat an extraordinary, for me anyway, amount of bad stuff. I just won't care.
Can I ask?
And that would apply to a lot of parents. If they're knackered, if they're working, if there's a single parent, or they're working 2 jobs, they will tend to eat, I was about to swear then, rubbish food.
Ben.
Luckily I didn't. Rubbish food for the sake of just getting it, you know, in you.
As a parent, you know, you're slim, your wife is slim, but do you think it sets a bad example when parents are overweight and they've got school-age kids?
And it's even worse when those kids, on some occasions, are also fat and obese. You see it in, you know, where I live, going to people on the school run, going to nursery, you see fat kids, and that, I mean, it's nothing but child abuse.
I was a fat kid.
Well, it's
was.
child abuse in my book. If you've got a fat kid.
And why were you so fat?
I was fat because my parents separated and I was depressed, so I ate. So exactly
as a
what
kid?
you
But
were
hang
saying.
on, though. You wouldn't blame your mother for that, though, would you?
Well, I wasn't the one that was in charge of what I was eating, but I do know that I was a very upset child and food made me happy. So I think my mum was juggling lots of things, but ultimately I wasn't responsible.
So where do we strike
for
the
that.
balance there? Where do we get the balance right? Like, how much do you blame the parents?
Look, I think if you have a fat child who is under the age of 10, that is not the child's fault. It is your fault as a parent. And I think any parent with a fat child would probably admit that. Now, obviously, it is difficult in today's day and age. People are working, you've got two parents working, they might not have time to cook. But ultimately, I think it's something like a third of kids now are overweight. That is a ticking time bomb.
I think it's
for the
appalling
future.
that we can't get that right as a society. You know, an affluent society, and we can't teach kids how to cook broccoli. You know, it's one of the best
hang
things
on,
my
we're
mum
going to
did
have
for
to
me.
leave that one there.